NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way 2014 review. And you see these four that will be challenging for the NXT Championship. The champion Adrian, Neville, Tyson Kidd, Tyler Breeze, and Sami Zayn. Bada boom, realist guys in the room. How you doing? Stephen Housey, joined by the one and only NXT in-house. TakeOver Fatal 4-Way 2014, arguably you could say, is a one-match show.
And if you ain't down with that, we have one word to describe you. Yeah, dude, it's this was. Oh, I'm honestly trying my hardest not to curse because my God, this is an awful show. Like how people got hyped about this, I will never know. What was this 2014? Oh dear, yeah, this is a very painful watch. It sucks, man. Honestly, it really is a one match card.
The thing is that, like, obviously, thankfully, the one match is that Fatal 4-Way. It's spectacular. It's a really good match. I would argue and say as well. I mean, you said off camera there was two other decent matches on the show, or watchable matches. I would say, yeah, on the borderline, but for me, one, obviously, Charlotte Flair versus Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship is a fairly decent match as well. There is a lot of filler on this card. There is, obviously, it's still the early days of NXT, early takeovers as well. We've not had many of them up to this point. Commentary is having a lot of experimentation with it as well in its early days. So it's an interesting show to go back and watch historically, even if you're not necessarily going to have the best time watching some of the matches. But we're going to dive into it, and we're going to have a fun time for it. So for those that want to keep score at home, we've got then obviously this show. It's the 10-year anniversary today as we are actually doing this live. So September the 11th, 2014, of course, taking place in Florida at Full Sail University. Attendance expected to be over 400 people. Obviously, the commentary was Tom Phillips, Renee Young, and Byron Saxton. And well, we had the sort of original, like the sort of hype package you get at the start of the WWE shows, like the Then Now Forever stuff, and it was sort of flicking over with NXT, which I like that. It felt like it was, we are taking over, a slight bit of an invasion. And obviously we got the normal NXT intro music just for that. So there wasn't really any big spectacular video package intros, anything like that. So we're going to just dive straight into the action and go into what was the first match on the show, which we saw brand new NXT Tag Team Champions, the Lucha Dragons, defeating the Ascension. Of course, the Ascension had been champions for well over a year at this point. And of course, a difference in styles. Obviously, the Ascension are kind of ground and pound, very physical in the way they do their stuff. Lucha Dragons, high-flying aerial ability. But this match really sort of kicks into gear when Kalisto gets that hot tag, does a springboard off the second rope to do a splashing ring, but he sort of twists his body what seems to be about 180 times before landing on the Ascension. Quite a fun, stunning looking move in that match, and does a dive to the floor as well, but of course he's caught though by the Ascension, doesn't landing on his feet, and at that point Sin Cara comes flying for the ropes to land onto them as well. The Ascension eventually get back on top, look like they're going to hit their finisher, both standing in the corner with all the crowd going the yeah for those that remember back in the day. But of course, just as they're about to go off, Connor's leg is pulled by Sin Cara, and that takes him out. Of course, Sin Cara gets back into the ring, Viktor takes him out, but Kalisto hits his finishing move, the Selena Del Sol on Viktor, and we get a 1, 2, 3, and we get new NXT Tag Team Champions. Of course, Lucha Dragons weren't just Kalisto and Sin Cara, to my knowledge, before the start of this show. They declared themselves the Lucha Dragons, celebrating with Renee Young, easy for me to say, on top of the stage with those championships and screaming Lucha, 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 just to go off into the background. But NXT, your thoughts of that opener?
Well, for one, I missed the Ascension. I think they were such a good tag team, and their music just, it hits different, their music, and I honestly generally hate how much that they've ruined them on the main roster. So it was good to see them guys back again. Very shocked that obviously if you didn't really know the results going in, to see Lucha Dragons pick up the win here again, I found was very shocking. It was almost refreshing in a way, because obviously they made such a point about the Ascension being champions for so long. I think my biggest problem with this match was it didn't go on long enough for me, because the crowd were really into it, and I think that they could have done with maybe another 5, 6, 7 minutes. But yeah, totally, man. Like I said, it was fast paced, it was hard hitting. There was some decent spots. I mean, even when Konnor tries to stop Sin Cara from tagging, and he gets into like gets on his all fours and pushes him back with his neck and shoulders. I thought, do you know what? I respect that. That's a really unique way to stop someone from trying to get a tag on there, just for Sin Cara to reverse it and get that hot tag. So yeah, I would appreciate that. One or two mistakes. I mean, I think Sin Cara Kalisto at one point goes for some sort of variation of like the pop rocks, doesn't get the full rotation, and Konnor, I think it's Konnor, lands straight on him. So I was like, yeah, slight error there. But otherwise, I thought it was okay. I think the result was the biggest shock for me, and yeah, just time. I really felt that if this was given an extra 5 minutes, and especially with what comes afterwards, there was total justification for another 5 minutes in this match, and I think that's the biggest flaw with it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of filler actually in places of this show, and we'll sort of just quickly touch on those points of filler. We won't spend too long on them, but obviously this match only is 6.5 minutes long, so that goes to tell you it's not a lot of time to tell a story. Have that sort of nice opening from obviously the faces, going then into the point where you see the Ascension dominate, to then get into what's your final act of the.
Oh, he's gone again. Oh no, not again, Steve! Don't do it to me. Oh dear. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to fill it for that.
Minutes and 30 seconds is kind of a bit of a quick. Should be back. I'll be back.
Yeah, you are. You're here. You're here now.
Yeah, fantastic. For me, everyone went out. So let's start that segment again. You're watching this live. You get to enjoy this bit live. I'm cutting this stuff out as soon as I get the opportunity to. Like you said there, this was only 6.5 minutes long, and not enough time to tell a full story. Obviously, you look at the situation where, you know, we have the hot start from the baby faces. You get then that sort of meet in the middle of the Ascension dominating to then get to the final match. There's not enough time for it to breathe and to sort of really tell the story to its maximum capacity. So I completely agree with what you're saying with this. This needed a bit more time to set it, just to make it stand out just that little bit more on the show. However, it didn't overstay its welcome either, which I think sometimes can be to the benefit of the match. For me, the Lucha Dragons, I was quite a fan of them back in the day. The Ascension, I thought they had so much potential, but unfortunately, like you said, they got wasted on the main roster. This match for me, I'm going to say, is probably about a 2-star for me.
I went with 2 3/4. I probably, like I said, I think the shock of the title change, I think, amped it up for me a bit. And like I said, you give them a bit of credit for the time they had. They delivered, I thought, a pretty good match.
Yeah, I think it was it was watchable. It's certainly not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, and it's always fun to see new champions crowned as well. And obviously, this was near the time the Ascension would get their call up to the main roster, but of course, they weren't done at this period. We would see them later in the evening, but obviously, yeah, star ratings we've given out. Gone to see Dave Meltzer's rating as well, 2.25 star from Big Dave. So yeah, good to see indeed. Shout out to the live chat as well. We've got Byron in the house, says what's up, and then also singing Lucha, Lucha, Lucha. I would do the dance move for it as well, but you know, I'm feeling a bit lazy. But we move on in the meantime. Let's say we'll try and skip through the bits that we don't need to so much. Obviously, a video package for Adrian Neville. And said he'd beaten all 3 guys, but his ratings, can he do it at the same time? You may have noticed he likes to take risks, but he's also adaptable. That's the thing that's good about Adrian Neville. Someone that actually demanded a match on the pre-show was CJ Parker. Apparently said that he wanted to be involved on this card, so they gave him a match against someone that never wrestled before, someone we're very familiar with now 10 years later, one Baron Corbin. Obviously this was expected to be a squash match for CJ Parker. Turned out to be the other way around. So this match goes on for 29 seconds. So they lock up horns, and Corbin, obviously being the bigger guy of the two, puts Parker down. Parker seems a bit shocked, seems to throw himself back in, gets landed a hell of a right hand from Baron Corbin. Corbin just picks him up. End of days. 1, 2, 3. Let's get the winner's check.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably this was the beginning of the most protected finisher in professional wrestling. Dude, a great way to get Baron Corbin over, but my God, like the fact that we had this, and I was like, okay, I can understand why you've done this. You're trying to get Baron Corbin over as a big star, dude. His lone wolf look is my favorite version of him. Yeah, like I understand why you did it. I was cool with it. the fact that it's CJ Parker, and I think CJ Parker goes on to just lose forever until he leaves the company at some point. I think just in the following year, isn't it? So, yeah. It's not good for CJ Parker, and it's almost like the beginning of his downfall and the end of his run in WWE. But for me, he done what he needed to do for Baron Corbin.
Yeah, did what he needed to for Baron Corbin, absolutely. I mean, this reminds me, I'm going to throw a bit of an old school reference to me. It won't be the first time I use it from 1993, but it feels to me that this is almost a replication of early days of Monday Night Raw. Obviously, they had Razor Ramon against the 1-2-3 Kid. It was supposed to be a Razor Squash win, but of course, 1-2-3 Kid picks up the victory by hitting a moonsault from Razor, just shocks the world, tends to be on the run, leaves the ringside area. Slightly different in the way this is done because of the fact that Baron Corbin obviously expected to be, despite being a bigger dude, unknown to everybody, expecting to get the loss. The crowd are chanting, though, for Baron Corbin, not something he's heard too much in his career since. But it became the gimmick afterwards as well for Corbin because obviously he got the win here. It wasn't a shock. And then he would go on to go in a little bit of run in NXT. I think it was Samoa Joe that put in a lot of end to his run as the undefeated guy, but he was beating people within 30 seconds of every match he was having. Yeah,
and again, he's another one that's fallen victim to poor creative on the main roster since coming up. And yeah, well, everyone knows his story about his Money in the Bank run and all that kind of stuff. And I really want to see him go back to that old way. I mean, even like he had a small chance when he was doing his old GM of Raw thing. I thought that was great. Was it GM or was it like what was his role as on Raw when he shaved his head for the first time and he was wearing a suit and a waistcoat every match?
He was like a GM, but he might have had a different name, wasn't he?
Yeah, like an authority figure. And I was like, I really like that version. And then you kind of lost me with bum-ass Corbin and jackpot lottery winning Corbin. And I was like, sure. And then, do you know what I mean? Hopefully he'll go back to that way and I want him to finally do something, man. But yeah, this was, like I say, it was a great way to introduce someone that no one had ever seen before. And he goes on to have a great run in NXT. It's just a shame that it doesn't hit, like, for all his dominance, it doesn't turn into championship wins, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately, I think people, once these matches started getting longer, I think that's when people started to turn on Corbin. And then it was like, actually, this dude works much better as a heel. But it just didn't lead to where he was, I suppose, excited. Because this is around the period, and we'll touch onto this a bit more into the stream later on. But this is the period when we start getting all these big signings coming in. You know, we have these people that have been in the PC working with the behind the scenes, and now we start getting all these people from New Japan and all these different indie promotions, Ring of Honor. Obviously, we've already got Sami Zayn there, we've already got Adrian Neville there, but more are on their way. And obviously, that's when people like that who have the potential to get to the top fall down the pecking order because the popularity figure of NXT was about getting this top indie talent, which we'd end up to go on and love until obviously the transition to 2.0, probably late 2020, start 21. So for me, this was a fun period though, and I've got to say, Dave Meltzer doesn't rate this match since the fact it's only 29 seconds long. I guess feels he can't make a judge. I'm going to do different. I think we can judge it for 29 seconds because for me, it was explosive. It made a statement, and for me, I'm actually fine with this being on the card because I think it told a story and delivered. So for me, I'm going with a 3-star rating for this one.
Oh my God, you're generous. Wow. I went with a 2 on the basis that it did what it needed to do, and obviously I think I can't justify being more than that. Like I've given matches before a worse rating that have gone on at least twice as long, so I'm gonna have to give it a 2 from me.
I understand that the reason I've gone and bumped it the full extra star is that he's never wrestled on TV before. So literally, you've gone from someone you didn't know to the household, well, maybe not household name, but NXT household name, and actually gone trending on Twitter later in the show because that was the period where you used to have Twitter in the corner and like this is trending right now, and it was like the number one trend in the world. It was like new thing for them at that point. It felt so, kind of a fun time as a throwback there. On the Mark Wrestling Podcast in-house, is nice shirt, mate. Thank you very much. Well, I get it from the best, and I on the Mark Wrestling Podcast on YouTube now. Drop them a subscribe. And Byron here going to about next year's WrestleMania. Thinks it'll be the WrestleMania of heels. Liking your work there. We'll talk about that on a different occasion, a bit more detail, but certainly could be right. But we'll move on in the meantime then, and we'll go backstage once again. Then we.
While Steve's dropped out, I will continue this segment for the time being. We go backstage. We get a Tyson Kidd interview. He basically starts to describing what everyone seems to believe is his opponents. It turns out he's just talking about himself, and he seems to be a bit of an egotistical maniac, which is fine. I really like this version of Tyson Kidd. I think this did a great job in trying to get him over for the match. He's one of my... I think he's one of them guys that was just unfortunate to never win the NXT Championship for me. So, like I said, I think this was an okay promo. It was good to see Tyson Kidd finally get some character work.
Absolutely, completely agree with that entirely. Yeah, so I mean, that's the Tyson Kidd video package for you there. And then we move on then to our next match, which just happens to be hair versus hair. I tell you, if the connection continues like this, I've ripped my hair out. Enzo Amore with Colin Cassady defeating Sylvester Lefort and Marcus Louis, as mentioned, hair versus hair. Really not a lot to talk about in this match. In fact, the most interesting part about this was, I suppose, the build they gave us with Enzo being attacked 3 weeks before the show, and they shaved a bit of his beard, and then they made this sort of solution together of hair removal backstage, which ended up going on Carmella's dog. Not really a fan of that part of that segment, to be honest. I thought that was that's bad taste then. It's in bad taste now. Don't do that with animals. Just full stop. No.
Like we know it's fake, but still don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Fake, but still do not do it. But yeah, I mean, the most interesting thing about this was Enzo's entrance. Let's be fair, and to get see him Kaz do their stuff again, like we say, bada bing, bada boom.
But it's not even when he's over at this point. This is like pre him being over. So I've honestly, like, we can talk about it, but this crowd is so dead for this match. Like, there's moments where like the most noise is coming out of Cass on the outside, and it's like no one really wants this. I think the crowd ate into this for the fact that they just wanted to see someone lose their hair, and we don't even get to see someone cut their hair. Like, this is horrific, man. Like, you expect that, like, I could have gone to my barber's and seen 1, a better haircut, and 2, a better wrestling match. That's how bad this was.
Yeah, this was is a very bad wrestling match. Let's be fair. The thing is that this was interesting until the bell rung, because like no one cares at this point. Interesting fan fact that we mentioned though before the show. Obviously, Sylvester Lefort has actually made an appearance on WWE TV twice this year, because WWE were in France. It was SmackDown before Backlash, and Backlash itself, he was a security guard, and still had that long lock of hair that he's got here. Which of course he does go on to lose the match to Enzo Amore. Basically, it's a roll-up attempt that's holding the tights that gets Amore the victory, and there's a brawl after the match as well. During that brawl melee, we see that Sylvester Lefort escapes. Marcus Louis, who had made the save, obviously, during this moment, obviously was trying to help Lefort during the match, ended up being the one that had the solution put over his head instead. And of course, then he was to run backstage. So we didn't actually get to see anything at that point either, which was bloody awful, let's be honest, when you're going to see hair versus hair. But we did see him later on in the evening where he had kind of a bit of an awful look. And yeah, I mean, I kind of think I share, because I've taken a picture of him after this show just to show everyone what he looked like afterwards, because he loses his eyebrows as well. Kind of the same facial expression that I had watching this match.
Look, dude, I respect the fact that they shaved his eyebrows. Like, honestly, I was expecting that to be the one thing that they didn't shave, and I was like, the fact that they kept shaving his eyebrows for the foreseeable future, I'll give it props. Although I'm not being funny, within a week, his hair would have grown back a little bit. So he definitely kept shaving it.
It definitely had to be keep shaving it, absolutely indeed. There, but certainly looks like he reminds me of Lars Sullivan before going to the gym, actually, looking at him there.
Yeah, Lars Sullivan minus the beard.
Yeah, absolutely indeed there, but minus the dominance as well. I've had that ruined Marcus Louis, and he never recovered from that after that in NXT, bless him. But going back to the match itself, then obviously we've gone through all the details there in one, because Enzo wasn't happy backstage that we hadn't seen someone without hair at that point. But obviously we do get to see Marcus Louis in the end. But your overall rating and thoughts of this match?
Dud. This sucked, honestly. Taking everything aside, I don't even know who was meant to be the heel in this match. I like, because obviously Colin Cassady and Enzo aren't over at this point, and Lefort is French, and we know how WWE loves to portray French wrestlers. They're always the bad guys. So I'm like, I don't know who I'm supposed to boo here. If I'm supposed to boo both of them, why is this match even on the card?
Enzo and Kaz were the faces, but yeah, like you say,
just
it's before.
You've just seen them throw hair removal cream on a dog. What intonations is supposed to be babyface about that? It's so stupid.
It's not the best. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to give it a dud as well. For me, it was disappointing all around this one. Could have done without it being on the card all round. And yeah, I mean, if you're doing it for entrances, I did like the Enzo entrance. And like you say, it's before it's massively over, but everyone did at least get in with the SAWFT soft. And of course, there was a small moment as well where Enzo's going, you're going to get a haircut. It's just like, maybe I'll give you a bob, maybe I'll give you this, maybe I'll give you that. And that I thought that was mildly entertaining.
His promos definitely got better as he went along, because he went on too long, that one.
It did. And I've got to say quickly as well, shout out to commentary, insufferable during this match. The conversations between Renee Young and Byron Saxton over Sylvester Lefort's hair for 5 minutes, whether it is good or not, was definitely not a nice listen. So yeah, dud all around for this match. It was the drizzlings.
Tom Phillips ruining kayfabe later by saying that they shaved his eyebrows, and Renee Young having to save his ass by saying no, that's because of the hair removal cream. Good job, NXT commentary.
Indeed. 5.5 minutes this match, and the star rating for Dave Meltzer is, believe it or not, 1.25.
No, that's way too generous.
Yeah, way too generous. Don't know what he saw in that one, to be brutally honest. Tyler Breeze, he's a video package backstage. Basically, if you want it summed up into a sentence, he's better looking than the rest of them, so he's going to win. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
I'll be honest, the only one I liked all night was Sami Zayn's. The rest of them, I thought Neville's was generic. I thought Tyler's was generic. I liked Tyson because it was a case of he fooled you all by trying to describe his opponents. He's actually talking about himself. But Sami Zayn's one was the only one that had a story.
There you go. Yeah, I would agree with that indeed. And you see that story play into the main event as well, which makes that a bit better also. But following this, we've got another squash match on the way. 1 minute and 12 seconds of Bull Dempsey destroying Mojo Rawley.
You've missed the part. Kenta comes out before that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I have it written down. I just don't have notes for that part. There you go.
Yeah, literally, it's not really that much. Basically, Regal comes out. They announce Kenta has signed from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Then they do the idiotic thing. Instead of just bringing him out as his WWE name, he comes in, makes a massive ass statement in Japanese, which doesn't have any subtitles. So thanks for that, WWE. And then basically says, because of my hero, who he doesn't say who his hero is, he's changed his name to Hideo Hitami. And it was like, okay. And then they have the Ascension come out. Bearing in mind, these guys have just lost the tag team titles after a year-long reign. And Kenta puts them both on their ass, and you're like, well done there. You absolutely buried your former tag team champions.
Just the start of the future for the Ascension, really, wasn't it? But well played there, Tate, because this is the start actually of where we do see obviously like these international stars coming in, because they made a big deal of Kenta coming in. Obviously, that feud does lead into the next takeover we get to cover, which Hideo Itami teams with Finn Balor to go against the Ascension. Of course, we see Kevin Owens coming into Yeah, it wouldn't be fair. It's not too bad, to be fair, off memory. Obviously, Kevin Owens comes in not long after this one. Remember that there was the picture of all the people that signed in from the indies together, and it was all like, whoa, look at all these people that are coming into WWE. It was a massive deal at the time. So the only thing I would just say quickly, just before we go on to the squash match that will take about 30 seconds, Hideo Itami, Kenta, what could have been in WWE?
Injuries, unfortunately, were his downfall. It's a shame, really. And I mean, yeah, obviously there was some hype about him when he left and he went back to New Japan and he joined Bullet Club. But without keeping up to date with New Japan, I don't really hear a lot about him anymore. And yeah, I think unfortunately, he's just one of them people that's fallen victim. It's like Chelsea Green's first run, just a victim to injuries, unfortunately, and it just completely let them down. So yeah, I mean, dude, this guy was meant to be like one of the best like Japanese wrestlers, and yeah, dude, just spend more of his time on the medical bench than in a wrestling ring.
Sadly, I don't think he's personally recovered from his time in WWE, and he's gone back to do good stuff in New Japan. Obviously, been a champion as well. I think he's been the United States champion at one point for quite a period of time. However, I just feel like
never opened weight well when he first come back.
Yeah, but it's never seems to be of like the third or fourth match in like when it's those big shows. Like if it's like the New Japan Strong, he might be a bit higher on the card, but I always feel like he's not treated as the big hype that he was coming into WWE at the time when Kenta originally left Japan. But it's a shame to see. But however, this was a decent arrival, and they did say he would have his first match on the following NXT, which spoiler, he won. But yeah, Bull Dempsey. destroying Mojo Rawley, because that's the match everyone really wants to talk about. Move over a day of a time. Paul Dempsey is the one here. Arguably, this is bullfit. But it's not in the bullfit gimmick just yet at this point. But yeah, literally, it's a minute and 12 seconds, and it's a squash match. This was designed after these two were together in the tag team tournament, which of course the Lucha Dragons won to then go and win the tag team titles. And these two just basically, Bull Dempsey turned on Mojo after they lost. So that's the build of this match. And basically, Bull Dempsey won with, again, I said to go back to 1993 again, and here it is, with a headbutt off the top rope, a la Bam Bam Bigelow. And to be fair, just because of that nostalgia, I enjoyed that moment. But still, my eyes cringed and almost had that same face, by the way, as we saw earlier on. In fact, this face here, when I saw Bull Dempsey versus Mojo Rawley on this show.
Yeah, it's dude, the fact that we just had a 30-second match with Baron Corbin, we then got a dud of a match with Enzo Amore, and then we get another minute-long match. I was like, how is this show 2 hours long? I honestly like that was the most confusing part, because I think like the main event is like close to nearly 30 minutes, and then obviously the Charlotte Bayley match is the second longest, and then after that it's the 6-7 minutes tag team match, and I'm like, how does this show go on for 2 hours with like 2 squash matches and a 5-minute hair versus hair? This, like, honestly, I got to it and I was like, this show honestly is a joke. Like, unless something really special happens now, this could possibly be the worst pay-per-view I've seen ever. Like, it was getting to that point when I was just, do you know what I mean? I was like, it started off great, or started off okay, and then it goes nowhere afterwards. And I'm like, why did people vote for us to watch this? Do they really not like us? They really want to see stuff. I think that's what it might be. But no, yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure they had a plan for it back in the day, but like, dude, where's Bull Dempsey now? I don't even know where Bull Dempsey is now. I don't even know if he's still wrestling, is he?
I have no idea. I know he was on the indie scene when he left WWE, but I've not followed his career for about 4 or 5 years at least now. So
wasn't he like a Tough Enough winner or something? Or wasn't he on Tough Enough? Or
it may have been.
Can't even remember.
It may have been. Can't remember either.
But yeah, we've been talking about this match longer than the match actually lasted, and I think that in itself is stupid. So I'll give you my match rating. It was a dud.
I will give this one a 0.5 just because of the fact that
you're insane.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they executed the moves all right, but I wasn't excited to see the match. I wasn't excited to see them perform it. They didn't help me go above expectations. The 0.5 rating, I suppose, is the fact that it was over nice and quickly. You know, sometimes you're not really looking forward to something and you just go, okay, well, at least we can move on fast. So, yeah. And nothing ends up with happening with Bull Dempsey after this. And the Mojo Rawley push that was going on before this point in NXT was completely finished. So that's when we needed a Zack Ryder to make the hype bros.
They clearly didn't stay hype.
No, absolutely not. But we're going to move on in the meantime now. And obviously, this is where we get to talk about the NXT Women's Championship match. This is where I think the show takes a bit of a turn for me. This is where I start to enjoy it a bit more. Charlotte Flair defeating Bayley to retain the championship. Obviously, there was a video package as well. So quickly, what have I missed now?
You've got the wrong name up there. This is just Charlotte. It's Charlotte, not Flair.
I know it's just Charlotte. But the thing is, for continuity, it is Charlotte Flair.
I had to make the point that it's Charlotte, not Flair.
I was like, have I missed another video package or something? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no.
I was going to say, what match did you watch? I didn't see Charlotte Flair. I saw Charlotte.
I'm pretty sure I saw a woo somewhere at that point during this match. So, you know, definitely did. But obviously, I really enjoyed the video package. So just to quickly touch on that before this, obviously, Bayley, you know, talking about her rise. Obviously, this is the hugger gimmick, and this is her first rise in NXT as well, where we've seen her hugging, get to share the TV with all these people, was really exciting for her. And obviously, she won the #1 contendership over Sasha Banks, and she'd beat her in a rematch because Sasha thought it was a fluke. We saw the press conference where people said, you know, screaming Bayley's name at Charlotte Flair, of like of who she should face for that championship. She went, well, I guess Bayley then. So, you know, I think, you know, all in all, this was a good package. And obviously, Charlotte then turns on Bayley as well when they're in the tag team match here as well, because obviously Charlotte is dominant. She's going to go into the heel. Bayley, of course, is that squeaky clean baby face, comes down for the ringside for her entrance, hugs Izzy as well, who, you know, she's a pro wrestler now. Make yourself feel really old. She's so small there. It's not good. It's not good. I'm getting old. I don't like it. Yeah. But obviously, going into the match itself, obviously you expect to see the sportsmanship at the start of the match, where with Charlotte sticking the hand out. Bayley obviously decides to not be the hugger. She sort of gets involved straight in the action, but Charlotte soon gets and dominates. A lot of submission holds, rest holds, and stuff like that, dominating. Bayley does make a return back into the match, hitting a hurricane run off the top rope, second rope, one or the other. It was in the turnbuckle, and of course, then Charlotte does get the advantage back by hitting a German suplex to Bayley into the corner. Her head hitting the bottom turnbuckle seemingly puts Bayley out ready for this point. A moonsault's hit from the top rope from Charlotte, which gets a 2 count. But of course, as Bayley's getting up, Charlotte decides to put this one to bed by hitting natural selection. Your thoughts for Charlotte? Flair, not Flair. The Brits Bayley.
Going back to the start, just to talk about that package quickly. I thought it was really good, but you can clearly see the difference in quality of promos between Sasha and Charlotte versus Bayley. Bayley, obviously, in her infancy in NXT, but the quality that Sasha and Charlotte have in NXT at that point, for how long they've been doing it for, is just immensely so far superior to what Bayley was doing. And I actually think it hindered Bayley slightly because I didn't find it believable when you put her in the promo with those two other women at that point, which I think is the one downside. But otherwise, I do agree with you. It does exactly what it needs to do to build the story for the match. The match itself, it's not Bayley and Charlotte's best match we've ever seen them have, but it's getting to that. This is one of these matches that does what it needs to do to get Bayley, to build Bayley to be that big baby face that NXT needed and that she was going to be. Like, Bayley obviously is that hugger character. She's that demographic wrestler. But yeah, this was just another step for Bayley to build herself as a character. I thought the match was okay. There were some decent spots. The figure 4 headlocks that Charlotte was doing, but then turning them into a body slam as well. She does like 3 of them. I thought that's a great spot. A lot of stuff on the show as well that I was watching, and I was like, how come they don't do half this stuff anymore? Like, Sami Zayn does the dive through the ropes to DDT later on, and I'm like, I can't even remember the last time we saw him do that. But yeah, just loads of unique maneuvers that we just don't see anymore. So it was refreshing in that way. But again, it's not their best match, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they go on to have better matches. Obviously, with the more experience they get, their characters evolve. And obviously, if they would have a match these days, it's probably deemed WrestleMania worthy, you would imagine, at this point of both of their careers and what they've accomplished. So it just goes to show this is around the starting sort of placement for both of these ladies. And it's a decent match, but obviously, it's not their best effort. But at the same time, if you look back for 2014 women's wrestling around that time period, obviously you wouldn't find
really good.
You don't find women's wrestling getting 10 minutes at that point. This was like something really special, which, to be fair, today, 10 years later, we take as for granted, I suppose, to what was previously. So for that reason, and for me, I still look at this with high regard. And obviously, it's the right result at that point because Charlotte is the one that is being pushed at that moment as the champion. Bayley is just establishing herself. And I like her story that she goes on to when she eventually does win that championship at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Of course, that's nearly another calendar year later, but we look forward to getting to there eventually. We will be covering that one when it comes round to it. So, yeah, I mean, good stuff all around for me. This one, it doesn't beat perhaps a 2.75 rating for me, which is probably criminal when I give the Corbin one, but it's more the impact of the Corbin one. If you put in matches, obviously this match is the better match. So maybe I'm going to go with 3.
I gave it a 3 1/4. Like I said, I think, like, again, if I'd have reviewed it at the time, I probably would have rated this higher, and this probably would have been like 3 1/2, 3 3/4 maybe. But I think for the time, for what it is, like I said, they go on. There's obviously they get the opportunity further on down the line to build better chemistry and have better matches. And I think is this the first time? Is this the first time they ever televised match on NXT as well? Charlotte and Bayley at this point. I mean, without googling it, that's what I mean. And I think for a pay-per-view quality match, I'm pretty happy with that, man. So yeah, I gave it 3 1/4.
I think it's a fair rating. I mean, I tempted to join you, to be fair, but I've stuck with 3. I'm going to stick with 3 now, but it's the better of the one I've compared to earlier. But I've explained my reasons of why I have the same rating for difference. But yeah, Dave Reynolds has given this a 2.75 as well. Just looked at my phone at the same time where you've said that. So yeah, all in all, I think it's around that same ballpark. Decent match, worth going and checking out. if you haven't seen it. If you enjoyed the video so far, make sure that hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. We're about to get into that main event, but before we do, Sami Zayn has a video package and he wants to be the face of NXT, but people say he can't win the big one. But every time he does lose, he dusts himself off and he comes back. We see Sami himself say he will win the big one and he wants to beat the best with Neville to do it. The question is, though, he does say, is when is he going to do it? Well, one thing I can confirm nice and early, it's not in this match. Adrian Neville versus Tyson Kidd versus Tyler Breeze versus Sami Zayn in the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Championship. Easily match of the night, nearly 25 minutes long, this match. I'll get you the confirmed time in a second, but this one from start to finish was an absolute blinder for me. There were quite a few highlights I would like to go through on this one, and Steve, if you don't mind, just to go through. Obviously,
great match.
It's a great match. One of my favorite bits, obviously, we see the brawling on the outside. We see Neville with Tyson Kidd, but we see Sami Zayn with Tyler Breeze. Sami Zayn takes a selfie on Tyler Breeze's phone, which at that point I think is the biggest taboo of them all. I absolutely loved that moment and that spot there. But quickly, we see Tyson and Tyler working together, hitting suplexes on the ramp on the outside area, obviously to take full hold of the match, but the lights doesn't last too long. Tyler looks to try and make a pinfall attempt, which obviously that breaks things up. Tyson Kidd kicks him in the face and it sends Tyler Breeze to the floor for quite a while as well. Every time Neville tries to make a recovery to get back in the ring when he was knocked to the floor, he gets knocked down as well by Tyson once again. Tyson is pretty much destroying everybody in the match, really, because Sami Zayn's taking quite a bit of beating as well. However, there is recoveries made, and Sami looks to make a dive to go to the floor onto Tyson Kidd and Tyler Breeze. But just before he can actually go and make that dive, Neville gets himself onto the apron, jumps himself to the top rope, and does a beautiful moonsault on top of the heels onto the floor. We finally, from that moment, get a tease then that we're going to get one-on-one Sami Zayn versus Neville. Clearly the match that I think everybody wants, and we're trying to build to. Like we said, Sami wants to beat Neville here. Obviously, Neville being the champion, and probably sees Sami as the most viable threat probably in this match. So you can see there's a lot of hype around this moment. However, it doesn't last too long. Sami Zayn looks like he is going to hit a haluva kick, but beautifully Tyler Breeze gets in the way before he can do, hitting his beauty shot spinning heel kick, then super kicks Tyson Kidd, and obviously at that point Adrian Neville jumps off the top rope, but it's actually hit with a drop kick from Tyler Breeze, who then rolls Neville over for a 2 count. This is a massive moment where it looked like Tyler could win the title. We get a big Tower of Doom spot. Of course, it was very popular around the time period as well. Neville hits a shooting star press on Sami Zayn. However, Tyler Breeze throws him out of the ring, tries to steal the pin. Sami does get the kick out. Tyson Kidd, though, gets a sharpshooter on Tyler Breeze. Of course, it had said apparently pre-match that Breeze was the most likely to tap out in this match to the sharpshooter. So interestingly, he got him in this move as well. Neville does stop Breeze as the moment he looks like he's going to tap, holding onto the wrist. Sami eventually breaks up the hold. Sami does a dive through the ropes, taking out Neville, in fact sending him over the barricade and into the crowd. Sami runs around the ring, dives through the buckle, and actually hits his patented DDT on the floor to Tyler Breeze, which is absolutely spectacular, probably one of my favorite moments of the match. And then Sami hits the haluva kick on Tyson Kidd, and it feels like he's going to pick up that big victory. The ref counts 1, 2, and before it can get broken up, it's not the actual competitors. The referee is pulled out of the ring, and it's Neville who does it, to the shock of everybody watching, because obviously Neville wouldn't have got back in time to break off Sami, but the referee, he could get out there. So he pulled the referee out. Sami joins him on the floor. Neville kicks him straight down. Super kick takes him out, then goes straight to the top rope, lands the red arrow, and gets the 1, 2, 3 pinning Tyson Kidd to retain. For me, thoroughly entertaining match. Loved this from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, my only critique is that I think it just took too long to get going. Like, I understand what they were trying to do, and like they made Tyson Kidd look like an absolute unit in this match, which I appreciated. And I think that was just my one flaw. Is like actually there is a spot where I think there's like 2 botches as well. I think Tyson goes to lift Sami over and ends up headbutting Neville in the stomach or something, and then there's 2 botches one after the other. But again, it's minor details, but dude, yeah, you're right. Once this gets going, this is honestly so much fun, and it's like this was the real one of these matches that's like the real eye-opener for pro wrestling on TV, because like we're obviously at this point very accustomed to WWE's Raw and SmackDown and how they produce wrestling matches and what we see, and then to see these 4 guys, I mean, the fact that 3 of them are essentially cruiserweights as well, really does help it. But this is just so much fun, so much energy. I mean, you've talked about all my favorite spots. The shooting star by Neville is honestly fantastic, and then Tyler trying to steal it. This was just got. I mean, the only other thing I would have maybe done to have topped it is when Neville stops Breeze from tapping out. I'd like to have seen Sami grab the other arm as if Tyler was going to tap out with his left hand. I think you'd have added a little bit more like height for that moment, but otherwise it's still a great spot. Yeah, man, just do like once you've sat there and you've watched an hour and a half of whatever the rest of the show is, and then you get this, and it's so refreshing because it's so different. Like the rest of it genuinely felt, aside from obviously the women's match, because that like at the time that's obviously a very new way of watching women's wrestling, but now it's obviously the more common thing. But when you've gone and watched that, which all feels very WWE, and you get this kind of quality match as a main event, dude, it's thoroughly entertaining, man. I loved it. And like the story that Neville had beaten all these guys in singles matches, and now he has to go and beat them all in one match, I thought was a great turn. Sami obviously being that underdog babyface that he does so well, and even in his old ring gear, which I loved, the one that's got all the flags down the side of it, he looks like $1 million. Tyson Kidd, just again, I can't give that guy enough praise, man. I thought he was such a unit tonight, and he performed so well. And it's like, I remember this guy just being a tag team wrestler on Raw and SmackDown for the longest time, and then he just goes back to NXT and almost just completely revitalizes his career. And it's like, it's just again a shame that guy never goes on to win the NXT Championship.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I always was a big fan of Tyson Kidd, so I really wanted to see him win the NXT title at some point, but it never was to materialize. But yeah, I mean, just to echo everything you basically just said there, man, obviously, hell of a match, great performances. I really love the beauty shot moment from Tyler Breeze. I think for me, it was just like I didn't see that coming because of the way the camera shot hits it. It's just done really, really well. And then he gets 3 near falls in very quick succession. It's just like, because as well, we do see a clip from Monday Night Raw, which is quite interesting. Adrian Neville wins a tag team match of this. He teams with Zayn, pins Tyler Breeze, which obviously Tyson Kidd's the partner of Breeze. And usually we always say with a 50-50 booking, when usually means that person that wins is going to lose when it comes to the show. But Adrian Neville wins on Raw, wins here as well. Obviously, he's still within his reign, and obviously it just sets things up beautifully moving forward, because at this point, Adrian Neville's managed to retain the championship. Sami Zayn's got that glum look on his face he does when he's not got the job done, but here he could have done and he should have done. And had it been one-on-one, maybe with the match that we wanted, then maybe Sami could get the job done, which is beautiful, because leading to the next NXT TakeOver, it is Adrian Neville versus Sami Zayn. So we'll hopefully be able to give you that in December. But all in all, what would be your star rating for this match, and any final comments?
Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just my couple of critiques. I gave this a 4-star. I thought it was great.
We are matching. I give it a 4-star as well. And I've just looked at Dave Meltzer's rating, 4.5-star rating for the match. And just to confirm,
I was going to say, I would not argue with Dave for that. For that show, and obviously the time he rated it, I wouldn't argue with that.
Not at all. And to be honest, when you've watched some of the stuff before it, I wouldn't blame people if they gave it a 5, to be honest, because of the fact that it's that good of a fatal 4-way. It's an absolute blinder. 22 minutes and 16 seconds. And I recommend, if you're going to watch anything from just this show, that's the thing you should set aside and do so as well. So yeah, the show went off air after that. So we've pretty much covered everything from NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. So let's do what we like to do, where we sort of go through some special parts of the show and we sum it up in quick fashion. So to start things off, surprise, match of the night.
Main event, obviously. Silly question.
It is the Fatal 4-Way. OMG moment of the night.
Tag title change, because generally wasn't expecting it. I know Ascension were on a killer run, and obviously I don't like to look at the results before going to watch it, just in case it reminds me of the result, reminds me what happens. So I'll take a more fresh perspective on it. But yeah, I think that was the biggest OMG for me.
Yeah, I like it. I think biggest OMG moment for me was the fact we didn't see the hair get taken away. Yeah, we did in the end. But no, I think for me, I'm going to give it for the beauty shot moment. Like I said, that really just stunned me at the time. It was amazing. And also Sami, when he goes for the buckle and does the DDT, it's very close in those moments. Really, it's incredible the way he manages to do that. In fact, that spot from Sami Zayn is going to take the OMG moment for me of the night. Entrance of the night.
Baron Corbin. Got jobber entrance.
Yeah.
Like I would have said Enzo and Cass, but like they're not over at this point. And then the fact that Baron Corbin gets jobber entrance and then wins in 30 seconds, I think is great.
Yeah, to be fair, I think it's the right answer. It is the right answer. I hate to be, copying it, but it's the right answer. MVP of the night.
Tyson Kidd for me. I think he done great in the main event. His promo throughout the night. He really helped get that match going from the start to where it then eventually picks up pace.
Sami Zayn for me, and the reason for that is that he takes a lot of the abuse that Tyson Kidd is dishing out for that period of that match, and obviously the story seems to revolve a lot around Sami Zayn on this show. I think a lot of people thought this was his night to win the title. He doesn't. It leads to a beautiful story through it. We get the moment with him and Neville having the stare down, having a bit of altercation, and obviously the closing angle of the show as well. So Sami Zayn for me. Final rating out of 10 for NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way 2014.
I think this is really generous. I went with a 5. I think half the show is really good and half the show is really crap.
I am tempted to do the same, but I'm going to go with a 4 for the same reasons. I think that, though, to have a first full hour where, although I am a fan of the Corbin thing, it's 29 seconds of the whole hour. It's my favorite part of the whole hour. And not much else really competes with it. So for me, it's too long with something not good happening, especially when it's the start of the show. You have to wait to the end to be that excited.
Even if I enjoyed the tag team match, and the fact that if you had that 7 minutes to that half a minute, that's 7.5 minutes of an hour long show that you've enjoyed. Like, you're probably right. A 4 probably is the right rating. In fact, I'm going to join you and say a 4. I like the idea. I forgot to take that into an aspect that nearly 50 minutes of this show is just absolute crap.
And to be fair, if the main event was not as good as it was, and probably the women's match as well, I think we could be going even lower. So it's not the nicest rating we've done, but you got to be honest. You got to say what you feel. And one thing that we can say with positivity, it's probably one of the worst NXT takeovers ever, because they just get better and better and better from here on. So I will be surprised if we find a takeover that will give as low a rating ever again.
Yeah, I mean, without, like I said, until we get around, because obviously these are like quarterly, aren't they? So it's going to take us a while to maybe get round to the next one, and depending on what's on that card, because my memory isn't obviously as good as I'd say for every time, but do you know what I mean? I agree. This is probably the worst takeover ever.
I would go and say it probably is, because it's better. It's worse than the one we've just done before, which was the original NXT TakeOver. I much prefer the Rival as well. I can say with the, I believe it's our Evolution that is next. And obviously, like I say, Neville and Sami Zayn main events. You have the debut of Kevin Owens against CJ Parker, and of course, Adora, Tommy and Finn Balor against the Ascension, amongst other matches on the show as well, which I believe it is Charlotte versus Sasha, but don't quote me on that last bit.
Yeah. Because that's obviously the show where KO gets his nose broken by CJ Parker as well.
And literally, and it's the opening thing of the show as well, which is quite fun. But last little note from this show, just because people would not have seen it, 'cause it's not on the pre-show, it's not on the Fallout, it's a dark match on the show. Paige defeats Becky Lynch in 3.5 minutes, but of course, no footage available of that one. So just thought I'd give it a shout at the end there. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. Big thanks to the guy next to me, NX Steve. And NX Steve, any final words before we close things off?
Dude, there's only one word to describe this show, and it's WSA. No, in fact, it's TRASH. Trash.
Absolutely. Well, what we can say is, though, thank you to everyone to make us have to suffer to watch this one. But what we will say is, though, where was SCW Rewind will be back. You will get a chance to vote again for what we'll be having next month as well. And we look forward to having you there. But what we will do, just before we close things off, we are going to just do through a couple of comments, because we have some comments. Byron in particular has thrown comments in. They're up to date. Obviously, we didn't want to put it in with the theme of the show, so we'll just do a couple of comments for a couple of minutes and then we'll close off. CD in the house, hope you're doing well. Sorry you've had a tough day today, but hopefully you can have a good time watching us critique NXT TakeOver. Yes, it's not one of our more positive ones. But Byron says, bold prediction, Survivor Series War Games will have a return similar to CM Punk of last year. Interesting to think who you might think that may be as well. And also as a bold prediction that Dirty Dom will win next year's Money in the Bank. Interesting. And suggest that we should also do a review of NXT TakeOver at the end. And I can promise you we will when it comes around. We tend to like to try and do these around the 10-year anniversaries of them. So that's why we are doing them specifically around those times of year when they were.
I think at this point we should just not put these in the suggestions and just do them anyway, because it is literally once every 3 months at this point. It's one every 3 months going forward anyway. So we might as well just do the NXTs as we come to them. To be fair,
it is a little bit like that. Let's be fair. But yeah, man,
we can get Canadian Stampede, but we'll finally winning a review vote.
Maybe we will. Maybe it is going to be an extra thing going forward. Like you're guaranteed to get the NXT TakeOver shows, and then the people get to vote for something separate. Because I think that could be quite fun. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But we do actually have something that's just come in as well from Pierre here, who says, "Fun fact: the match Enzo versus Sly, great wrestler from France, was actually talking about all the behind-the-scenes stuff for the build-up of this match on his YouTube channel. Interesting. That could be definitely worth a watch. And his name there is Tom LaRuffa. So thank you for that, Pierre. I appreciate that. That's a nice bit of info if you want to get more on the insight of that, which of course we was very critical about. However, it may be a situation that it could be something positive to go and check that out. CD asks, do you think the black and gold will ever come back? No, but I think this is as close to what it is. It's evolved, doesn't it, NXT, to what it is now. And I think now it's the perfect blend of both.
The point is now, though, is the evolution of NXT now is to get them doing tours. And obviously with the following weeks in Chicago, because obviously Punk is going to be on NXT 2 weeks on a row now as well. So he's going to be on NXT next week to announce something for the following week in Chicago, which is going to be good. Randy's going to be on the week after, which is in St. Louis, I believe. So getting the NXT shows touring is the next stage for it. It's been a long time overdue because I think obviously pandemic obviously shut it down for the time being, but getting NXT going around the country and being produced the same way Raw and SmackDown is, I think, is the next stage.
I agree with you wholeheartedly with that one there, and it'll be interesting to see how it does evolve from here. And as CD said, it's the perfect blend of both worlds, and it does cater to hardcore fans as well, whilst having the farm system for future main events. I think that's what makes it that best of both worlds as well. But obviously, this was early days. This was 2014. This was our review, our rewind of NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. Big thank you to the chat for getting involved. Big thank you to NXT Steve as well. Thank you to everyone who voted, and we look forward to seeing you for the next one. All the best, and anything you've missed, make sure to hit the start of the video and check out our thoughts of this show. Take care. We'll see you next time, and check out other rewinds that are available on the channel right now. All the best.